Thank you for auditing the always positive, unedited new music review show hosted by a French professor who's going to be reviewing TW20552. Catchy title, by KayCyy and Gesaffelstein. Gesaffelstein, we'll get into him. I'm doing back-to-back videos, one day after the next, based on the following idea. Sometimes EPs come out, and sometimes EPs are by established groups and they're just to sort of release something. But sometimes they're released by up-and-coming groups or acts that have not released a full-length project. So yesterday I reviewed Dev Lemon EP. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Many of you watched it. Thank you. And the comparison that I came to is might be a strange one, but it's old baseball cards. So, baseball cards today, if there's a prospect, someone who might be a good player, they get their own card. They get special exclusive versions with forced, invented rarity. But back in the day, there were so many players that the baseball card companies didn't know what to do. So they would just sort of make cards that would say, future stars, or rookie outfielders, rookie second baseman, like these two cards. Featuring the rookie card of Jim Rice, one of the best players of all time. You got, I think, Lou Whitaker's on this one, right? Some Hall of Famers there. But these kind of like little tiny images. And I think of these little images like little EPs, like these guys aren't ready to get their own cards. They're not ready to be full-time players. They might end up becoming all-star rookies, like Jim Ed Rice over here. But they might not. So I like to imagine each of these little EPs, like one of these cards, sort of showing off, saying, what are these rookies going to do? And I think they're very promising. I've been a big fan of KayCyy for a while. I'm not a fan of how aggressively he hates search engine optimization. His name is so bad because I don't know how to, it's two Y's, and was it one word? Is it KAYY, CAYY, or CYY? It's and then the album title being TW20552. I mean, we're like, what? Are you letting Rush name your album titles? But beyond that, I've been really looking forward to his new album. I already reviewed one of the songs on this album, which I'll talk about in a second, but I find him to be very exciting, partly because I am interested in anybody who is in, making another sporting analogy, the Kanye West, currently known as Ye tree. The creative tree, where he has so many collaborators, and regardless of what he's saying or doing now, which puts him behind a veil, as you see behind me, he is so responsible for platforming, for bringing in figures in the music world and giving them a brighter stage. And this EP is a perfect example of that, with two people from the Ye tree. KayCyy obviously appeared a couple times on Donda. In particular, he was the original singing voice to Keep My Spirit Alive. And of all the ways that the special edition, 1997 edition of Donda annoyed me, removing KayCy's voice, well, I guess he also removed Chris Brown, those might have evened each other out, but I really loved KayCy's voice. I think there's a fragility to it, there's an honesty to it, there's a depth to it that cannot be recreated. Certainly Ye can't recreate it with his voice. I'm going to be comparing him quite often to The Weeknd, but I don't think it's a simple imitation issue. I think it's maybe a similar soundscape. But he's a very interesting artist because you can't quite figure out, and this happens a lot these days, are you trying to be a rapper? Are you trying to be an artist? Are you trying to be both? Does it even matter anymore? His life story is an important one just for America. I talk a lot about immigration on this channel. I think sorry, I got my dogs over there. They're sleeping and making a little bit of noise. Don't worry about them. Here, I'll show you so you can believe me. Toby, what are you going to do over there, huh? You going to try and take the dog bed from your brother? He will. But I'm very interested in immigration. I think immigration is a great thing for America. I think it's a great thing for every country. And this is a great example because Minnesota is an interesting state. It was founded for the large part, by Scandinavian immigrants. And now they have a large population of Africans who live in Minnesota, who are making it a much more interesting and vibrant place, away from its just sort of whatever image you have of what Minnesota is. Part of the reason why it's changing, diversifying, becoming more cosmopolitan, more culturally interesting, is because now they have people like KayCyy, who is a Kenyan immigrant, or maybe his family was, I don't know what it is, but that sort of different life experience, I imagine, is going to come through in his music. I can't quite tell who he is yet, because he's still just on this little card right here. He's like Sam Perlozzo on the Twins. See, Minnesota. He's sort of like that guy. Like, I don't know if he's going to turn into Lou Whitaker or if he's going to turn into Garth Eorg of the Blue Jays. You know, it's hard to tell if he's going to be a star or not, if he's going to realize his potential. But that origin, that upbringing is interesting because it's different. It's different than your standard rapper, standard singer. He's bringing a different life experience. But who is he? You know, I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out by this little picture. I really can't. To a certain extent, this project appears to be like half about self-discovery and the need to go to therapy. And then some of it's also just sort of like, get lit, get lit, sleeping with a lot of the bees, yeah. Did you smash the like bucket before I did that? Could you go back in time and just before whatever that was, that does not, this whole video does not deserve a like because of that little bit. But if you could put yourself in a place and time to give me a thumbs up on this, that would be just awesome for me because then more people can see it. And I think this is going to be a good video despite whatever that was. So he seems to be consciously, intentionally split between these two different persona. Maybe, you know, it's that kind of Weekend lane where sometimes he's being super self-destructive, other times he's being very sweet. With the nature of his voice and his ability to go between singing and rapping, maybe he's also going to work to fill in some of the XXXTentacion void. Now that's very strange to say because he doesn't... XXXTentacion wore his impending death like on his sleeve. He just felt very tragic from the beginning, and KayCyy does not seem tragic. KayCyy seems inspirational. He seems like he's a positive person who is doing his best in a difficult position. So, you know, so that's one half of this yay tree. The other half is Gesaffelstein, who, if you are like me, it's the 10th anniversary of Jesus. I'm probably going to do a video about it, while also addressing the larger issues. But Gesaffelstein is sort of the Phantom Menace of Jesus. I mean, there's a couple people like that. You know, like Arca is another one, where a lot of what made it such a challenging and interesting, aggravating album in a great way was Daft Punk. But there was another Frenchman, Gesaffelstein, who was there. Now that we have some experience with Gesaffelstein's other production, we see that some of the sparse, ominous, aggravating, discordant elements that I just naturally assumed had to be pure Daft Punk might actually have been very much Gesaffelstein. And so we're still in that tree. 10 years later, we're still getting the fruits of all those producers who worked on that masterpiece. Apparently, he also worked on the song Fiore Latte by Phoenix, but I don't believe that. Tell me if that's true in the comments. I can't believe that's true. And then, of course, he did a lot of work with Weeknd. So I don't know Weeknd very well. I don't know the Melancholy album that well. But when I started playing songs by Gesaffelstein that were Weeknd songs, my son, who's on the couch playing Zelda next to me, which is basically what you should imagine is happening in my house basically at all times. He's a senior slide. He's basically, it's like, hey, gotta do a video. All right, fine. He hits pause, runs upstairs. I do my video, comes down. So, you know, we're sitting there and we're listening to it. And he's like, well, this is like my favorite Weeknd stuff. I'm not the biggest Weeknd guy, but this is the best stuff. So maybe going back to the ghost of Ye, back there, you see, he's back there. Going back to the ghost of Ye, potentially, you know, that whole early Weeknd sound, maybe he wouldn't have found Gesaffelstein if Gesaffelstein wasn't on Jesus. Maybe that early weekendy Weeknd stuff would not have been as rich and good as it was without that sort of unintentional inspiration. And of course, he's all over the place on Jesus Lord, on Donda. Gesaffelstein's all over the place on Donda. He's No Child Left Behind and Jesus Lord, that weird sound in the beginning, that sort of like church organ-y style. I consider Gesaffelstein to be an electronic producer of a broken cathedral. So all of the grandness of a cathedral, but like one that's been karate chopped by Mechagodzilla. Just like imagine that, okay? Imagine a great church organist and he's playing organ and the whole congregation is happy and they're listening and they're touched by the Spirit of God, and Mechagodzilla comes up and just does a karate chop, and like the entire church like falls down and the people are dying and the organ gets a little bit busted, and then in the rubble they find some sort of peace and harmony and understanding of human folly. That's what Gesaffelstein music sounds like. 5 out of 10. You see, that's why I don't do numbers. How do I put a number on that description? So let's give an example of what this is. You know, like these two people from the Yay coaching tree. Let's take the example of the song I've already covered previously that is so good, Okay. I'll include a link to it up there, okay? Above the banana, above the veiled Yay. This is the unquestioned masterpiece of their collaboration. This is a proof of concept, but it's the only song like it. Now, I can't tell. I wish there was more like this. I wish there were more songs that went this far into abstraction and discord, but maybe it's better that it's like this. Maybe it's better as one of the styles they make together as opposed to all of them. I can't quite tell. But it feels like this is really the next evolution of the sort of whole lot of red rage rap, super experimental, barely drums, just all these weird sounds and aggravation while also being melodic, while also being rapping. So much emotional range on this song, this great synthesizer arpeggios, and the synthesizer has such a great tone. Gesaffelstein picked such an amazing tone. You know, there's all this kind of repetition, you know, like get it lit, get it fit, get it bit, get it wit, all that. But then there's this part where he talks about Kush is his cologne, you can smell my tree, and his voice goes way up high. And then there's these like almost like a shepherd's tone, like, you know, the increasingly rising tone. That's called a shepherd's tone, where it sounds like it's never stopping going up. But it's just this bleary and unsettling tone while he's singing. Just all these descending lines of the melody, and the you know, you're in that broken cathedral, you know, like you see Mechagodzilla walking off in the distance, and you're just like, what's going on here? And the organist is still playing, and there's this great weird bridge, just this low farting rumbling keyboard, and then just saying the word okay, which is the name of the song, and then we get to this full search for self in the end, just echoes and madness, just this inspiring, bewildering outro. So this song, if for nothing else, Okay is just one of the great songs of the modern what do I call it? Rap? Techno? R&B? Rage rap? Hyper pop, hyper rap. I'll just call it. This is one of the best songs that there's been. Ooh, when I figure out what to call it, I'll edit that in post. I'll say something different. Mr. Black. So let's get through the rest of the album a lot quicker. It's a pretty quick album. It's like 20 minutes long. That's the other thing, you know, like he is setting up to have his own baseball card. He's setting up to try to be a rated rookie. You know what I mean? Like, this is just a little taste. He's going to release his full album, I think, next year. And when he does, my prediction is everyone is going to say, oh my God, this guy's a future Hall of Famer. And wildly boring TV commentator. I love Jim Rice. I saw him hit a grand slam against the Orioles in 1991. But he's a terrible TV announcer. Yeah. So, you know, he might eventually become that. You might notice my fingers, too. Take a guess. Why are my fingers like that? I'll tell you at the end of the video if I remember. Okay. I forget I'm not talking to my baby. Peekaboo. Okay, so roll the dice. Very weekendy style here. There does feel like there's a real emphasis on kind of weekendy style songs. Is he a rapper? Is he a singer? The chorus. The rap is just in the bridge. A second without you, feel like I'm missing all my oxygen. Standing on our side, I'll never miss when you the opposite. Hit you up the same effing time every night, like pull up, pull up. Yeah, it's okay, you know, it's great, but really what saves the song is this outro, the cracked cathedral outro, and then this line, roll 'em therapy, roll 'em too soon. So the beginning of this project, And it's interesting because the back half of this project has already been released. So maybe he's just making this progress, and we're going from the end of the album, which is more like I'm getting lit, and then the front of the album is newer stuff where he's talking more about fidelity, faithfulness, and going to therapy. It's sort of like a backwards thing, like that Tenet movie, or as I call it, backwards Tenet. It's nice because he's saying too soon therapy, and this is response to everything turned out fine. And often when people refuse therapy, it's because they think they turned out fine. Ashley's Heartbeat is the second track. Super high whine, aggravating and good. Almost like a 808 and Heartbreak style, like percussion, you know? A little bit more interesting singing. Not shady, sunny, clear with you. Life savings, money, it's nothing with you. The great headache-inducing ability of Gesaffelstein to make songs that make you want to have a headache that you also like. Because I can love heavy, trust me, not perfect, but I'm working on it. So again, these opening new tracks here that he's releasing are very much on this sense of becoming a better person. There's no real hook on this whole song. It's all just kind of this vibe. Timeless, more broken church music. It actually reminds me a lot of the soundtrack of Clockwork Orange, which was made by Wendy Williams? Is that possible? No. Wendy Carlos. I got William Carlos Williams mixed up with Wendy Carlos. I believe that's the name. Kind of like Moog synthesizers, kind of like trying to sound like Baroque music, but with 1970s futuristic synthesizers. Very kind of catchy song, timeless. And again, it's interesting because here he's talking about being a good guy, the opposite of a Weeknd Poison, you know, because I like Weeknd, but a lot of his work is so based on him being a terrible person who's going to seduce you and wreck your life that it just makes me sad. Stating the obvious, quick to acknowledge you, I'm true to my promises, I'm taking the time with you. This sounds like a Boyz II Men song. Quick to acknowledge you, I'm true to my promises. Girl, it's a seductive song where what he's talking about is actually important. He's about being honest, the second verse is all about his honesty, his faithfulness. I was in a shallow place, almost did it, I admit it, temptations almost fell in it, but I love different. So here he's not being unfaithful. Nice kind of dancey outro, danceable outro, more Clockwork Orange synths. Next song, No Cold. Here you go. The most Jesus if you are like me and you are desperately hoping for some kind of Phantom of the Opera yay to come back and atone and somehow reconcile his actions with whatever. We don't talk about that now. But this is just full Jesus. This is what thought I was looking for. I'm actually looking for okay, but this really sounds like it could be a Jesus outro, kind of an ominous verse. But here it's totally different. Now it's like, and I guess this is the different release time. This is a full Weeknd style song. She prayed for autumn leaves, but I brought her snow. That's like the primary Weeknd thing. Like, I give young girls cocaine. I give young girls cocaine, have sex with them, and then hurt them. Okay? That's the Weeknd thing, you know? So, I don't know. It's disjointed, you know, and I think it's okay that it's disjointed, you know? It's disjointed because we're still trying to figure out, who are you, bud? Are you David Ralph Augustine? Are you Pepe Mangual? Man, look at Pepe Mangual. Shout out Baseball Card Theater if you've never watched it. Very funny YouTube channel. But there's this little moment of like full Daft Punk style digital distortion, like the end of the song Contact off of 2013's Random Access Memories. Great. Then we get Okay, the song already discussed. The Sun, super high whining synths, but then also that kind of Weeknd distorted, danceable beat underneath. It's not surprising that sort of like combinations of these items are what created Hurricane off of Donda. I think it's better he doesn't rap, or his lyrics are kind of whack. I keep her all safe. I can be your all state. I hate it when rappers like use like brand statements as like punchlines. Not very good. And then the album ends with Love and Hate, kind of a blared out organ, electric style, high voice. You love me, you hate me. But the thing is, this is the other promise of Gesaffelstein and KayCyy working together. This is not the kind of rage rap weirdness of okay, this is Gesaffelstein's Broken Cathedral having a singer, you know? And even if you just think about Jesus as Lord, the main thing that we think about when we think about what Gesaffelstein did, you know, on Donda is that intro, the you know, that kind of discordant, churchy intro. And this is just all the like church chord progressions, the total Broken Cathedral of Town, most emotional in the voice, very, very promising again. It breaks down very interestingly in the end, all this discord, all these rhythms. I don't know. I'm just really excited. I'm really excited to hear KayCy's final product. I think it's going to be Jim Rice. I do. I think it's going to be a super good project. Maybe even Kirby Puckett. Although Kirby Puckett's rookie card, I think it was an 85 Fleer maybe. He wasn't on a split card. Doesn't matter. Okay, here we are with my Patreons. They give me money. I have other Patreons now who just signed up. I don't know, but who signed up after I had my Woods interview, my Billy Woods and Kenny Siegel interview as a Patreon exclusive. And there's so many of them I haven't figured out. Well, my printer's busted, so I haven't figured out how to like properly print out their thing. So these are those folks. So I'm also going to be putting their name when I finally finish editing that video. So thank you to those folks as well. Do you like KayCyy? What's your favorite baseball card? There's the camera.